Alright, what's up YouTube? Alright, I guess with this video I'm going to review the album Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which is Pink Floyd's debut album, therefore their first album. Anybody that knows the history of Pink Floyd knows that they, the original four members, the four founding members, was the founder Syd Barrett, Roger Waters, the bass, Nick Mason on drums, and then on keyboards was Richard Wright. This is the album with those four in it, and again, knowing Pink Floyd's history, this is the only Syd Barrett as leader album. I guess, I don't know, it's definitely different from the rest of Pink Floyd, mainly because it's obviously a different writer and a different guitarist behind it. But what I've noticed when I heard this album is that you can definitely tell it's a 60s album. You know, it came out in 1967, but you could, just by the sounds and everything, you could tell it's a 60s album. Now, I mean, it just has the cliche I don't even know what they call the. It just has the cliche 60 tunes to it, and I feel like it's one of the Pink Floyd albums, if not the biggest Pink Floyd album, that's incredibly dated. Like, it's a lot of other Pink Floyd albums, they're definitely timeless. You could play them like yesterday, and you could tell somebody that it just came out like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or in the future somebody could say it came out in all those aforementioned time frames. And just because of the context they're talking about in said albums, just the way that they're going with the music and all that, just you would believe that it's a timeless album. This one doesn't really do all that. This one is a very dated 1960s, if not late 1960s album. It also, another thing with this one is Syd Barrett, if anybody knows, was a huge taker of psychedelic drugs, especially LSD, and you can really see that. And I'm not bashing anybody that does LSD and listens and plays music or anything like that. I definitely think that would be a very interesting way to do music. However, with Syd Barrett, it's like he got a little too into it, to where even though the songs are great, he wrote all but one song on the album. Roger Waters wrote wrote the one song that he didn't write or co-write. But out of the 11 tracks he wrote, again, 10 of them. And just with those tracks especially, you can just tell that his mind state isn't the same level as anybody else's, let alone whether they're a member of Pink Floyd or a casual listener of Pink Floyd. It just gets really lost in what his way of thinking is, and its emphasis on his way of thinking. You almost have to be Syd Barrett, or at least somewhat of a mindset, to understand or to get an understanding of what he's trying to do in this album. But I mean, it's no means a bad album. I think it's definitely my least favorite Pink Floyd album, but it's not a bad one, because even though all the songs are very cliche 60s and very lost with some guy's psychedelic mind taking over, the songs still manage to be very well songs. They're definitely songs that you can listen to and re-listen to. I can definitely tell that this is an album that, you go back, and even though the song and the music, the lyrics are all still the same, I guess because you're a little more used to it than you were the last time you heard it, you get a little more comfortable into the music as opposed to just hearing it. And unlike a lot of other Pink Floyd albums, you don't get that settled into it the first few times you listen to it, let alone the very first time you listen to it. I don't know. I'm trying not to do a song for song redo, mainly because I can't remember all 11 songs that go at once. But again, I guess the best I could give with this very scattered review, I guess I'm kind of mimicking the album here, is that it is a great album, or better yet, it's a good album. It's definitely one to listen to if you're doing a Pink Floyd marathon, binge listening marathon, or if you're just trying to get back into the 60s, or if you're just trying to discover the albums and the music of Pink Floyd that isn't really that talked about, and there's reasons why they're not talked about. Again, it's not that the fact that they're bad albums or this is a bad album. It just blends in with everything else around it, and this one definitely blends in with everything else around it. Oh yeah, I mean, if you're an occasional Syd Barrett listener, I'd recommend it. Any Pink Floyd fan, I would recommend this album to. But I'm just gonna say personally, it is definitely my 15th favorite out of their 15 studio albums. I definitely like I'll go in the next video for their next album, A Saucer Full of Secrets. But with this album, it's nice to see the original lineup. It's nice to see what music they would bring out. You do instantly understand why they had to make the decision they did of taking Syd Barrett out of the band less than a year later. But you also see that why they had, unlike when Rodgers left or when the band disbanded years ago, you can definitely understand why this one was a little more calm and mutual and not really so much in spite. But I'm pretty sure the fact that they weren't famous yet either might have had something to do with that a little as well. But it was definitely more of a friendlier departure than it was for the other departures later on in the future for Pink Floyd. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a one-of-a-kind album in that sense. But again, this is for like the upteenth time, it definitely does. You can tell instantly it's a 1960s album, and you can also kind of tell, or at least get some sort of assumption, that the guy that made this was probably on the drugs that a lot of people in the 60s did. But again, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, a Syd Barrett fan, I don't know why I can't talk today, but if you're a Pink Floyd fan or a Syd Barrett fan, or you just want to study Pink Floyd, yeah, I'd recommend this album, and I'd recommend you starting with this album, seeing as how that's the album Pink Floyd started with when they made their first music. I guess I'd give it a thumbs up. Maybe I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. So I guess a 60% if you want to do that ratio. So, but I give it a 6 out of 10. But again, a good album, not a great album, but a good one. And all the 11 songs on said album are pretty. You can listen to them. They're not 100% easy to listen to, but you can in fact listen to all the songs of the album, to where you can leave the album saying that all the songs were good, therefore again the album was. Anyway, that's my review. I know I said the same 5 sentences over and over for like 9 minutes now, but again, I guess my subconscious was trying to mimic the album in a sense, to kind of give it its true nature. I promise the next time I do the next Pink Floyd review album, which would be A Saucer Full of Secrets, I'll be a little more coherent with what I'm talking about, and I won't have so many problems speaking as well. But anyway, like I said, 1 thumbs up, 60%, 6 out of 10, and again, I would kind of recommend it. So that's my review about a Piper at the Gates of... here we go again. So that's my review about the Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't and you must have through this long, I gotta give you guys 2 thumbs up. Have a good one.